Welcome to Edwards Place. Today's episode of History Snippets is our last one for this season. Many times when people visit a historic site or a historic home like Edwards Place, they see many objects and materials with which they're not familiar. Well, here at Edwards Place, we have interpreters who love to answer questions. I'm going to answer, I hope, some of your questions about a very practical, indispensable item, the chamber pot. What is a chamber pot? Well, basically, a chamber pot is a portable toilet. By the 1800s, it was a very convenient way for people to relieve themselves at night without having to trek all the way out to the privy or outhouse. When and where were chamber pots first used? Well, actually, human beings have been using something like or similar to a chamber pot for thousands of years. In fact, the earliest identifiable object that would be called a chamber pot was discovered in Egypt by archaeologists, and it was dated to 1300 BC. What originally started as something that looked a little bit like our modern flower pot had evolved into something that looked more like a squashed jar with a really large lid. What materials were used to make a chamber pot? Well, first and foremost, it had to be something that was leak-proof, because nobody wants a leaky chamber pot sitting in their bedroom. So most often these things were made from metals or from ceramics. Ceramics are glazed, and that would be one of those ways to prevent leakage at any time from your chamber pot. Why use a chamber pot? Well, it was really the only thing available. Admittedly, in the 1600s, the 1700s, especially in Europe, people were basically relieving themselves any place that was handy. And there are horrible stories, I know, horrible stories about even in the French court. People would just basically walk over to a convenient corner. That useful chamber pot made it a convenient way and a sanitary way to take care of relieving yourself in private. By the time we reach the mid-1800s, the outhouses and privies that we think were so common before then actually started being built and used in private homes, which is why the chamber pot then became an item that was used at night as vast improvement over the long walk through deep snow to the privy in the middle of the night. How many chamber pots did people have in their home? A house such as the Edwards Place would have had a chamber pot in each and every bedroom. A frontier cabin, for example, would have had maybe one bedroom for everyone, or a one room that everyone shared for everything, including the chamber pot. Who emptied the chamber pots? If you were the Edwards family and you had servants, that would be the job of the maid. It was an everyday, first thing in the morning, they would take those chamber pots from the bedroom, down the hallway, down the steep back, uncarpeted stairs, through the back door of the house, out across, and they made that long trudge, even when it was snowing, even when it was raining, even when it was cold, to empty the chamber pot in the privy pit. And what if you didn't have a maid? It would be the person who lived in the house who emptied his or her chamber pot. Odds are that that job usually fell to the women in the household and not the men. Are there still chamber pots around? Yes, there are. Some people collect them, and you can find them at antique stores and auction houses where you can purchase them. In fact, in 2020, a beautifully decorated, ornate, in perfect condition chamber pot was sold for $200. Today, chamber pots, or their modern equivalent, will only be found in hospitals or being used for someone who's incapacitated in some way. So we hope that the next time when you're visiting a historic home like Edwards Place, don't hesitate to ask your site interpreter. They love to answer questions. We want to thank you for joining us today. We hope you'll join us again for more history snippets.